What is going on, boys and girls of YouTube? Today is actually Christmas Day. I'm about to head out, but I wanted to get you guys a video so you know the grind is real. Please make sure you hit the like button and the subscribe button. We're going to cover the top 5 mid laners you should be playing right now. For Smite, I know a lot of you guys are going to be playing today. This is probably the main question I get on stream every day. Like, by far, everyone asks me what to play, and I kind of get it. When I think about it, it's kind of hard to come up with what the best gods for you to play are. But I did a little bit of looking, looked at what other people were playing, looked at the SPL, looked at ranked, looked at casuals. I think I got a good list for you. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to use Smite source to show everything off. We're going to work from number 5 down to number 1, 5 being the worst of the 5, and number 1 being the best. Number 5 on the list is Cilla. Cilla being there because of how safe she is. Most mages and gods in general being played in the mid lane are super susceptible to being ganked. It's very easy to dive all mages right now, between solo laners and junglers both diving on you. It gets really, really hard. Cilla's a little bit better at dealing with that because she's got the root for peel, she's got the dash, the long range dash or 3, and then she's got the ultimate for CC immunity if you need it. So you've got a lot of outs on top of beads and Aegis. So as long as you're playing safe and smart, she ends up being a really, really strong god. If you go to Smite source like we have here, you can see the build. You're going into CDR power builds, not going into the Book of the Dead builds. Those builds are gone. Stop worrying about them. Only 2 to 3 gods really get big benefit out of it. So stop relying on those builds. Go to normal power builds. They're way, way, way better. You can see the starter. You're going sands of time, and pretty much in the early game, you're just trying to clear, man. You're just clearing the wave, rotating, farming. You're playing to get your 2 maxed out, your 1 maxed out. That's when your big power spikes come through. And in team fights, once you get to those power spikes, you can kill everybody. Tanks die, mages die, assassins die, everyone dies. You're getting yourself for full build, Pendulum, Divine Ruin, Soul Gem, Soul Reaver, Obshard, and Rod of Tootie making a big comeback. This is going to get you 30% CDR, and then once you have your red push online, you'll be at 40% CDR. It says right here, swap Divine Ruin for Spear of Deso, so this gets you more early CDR if you don't need anti-heal. If they have no healers anywhere on the map, go Spear of Deso instead. If they have healers, Divine Ruin's a better item to have to make sure you do get those kills in those team fights. Cilla's amazing. Leveling up your abilities, you're leveling up the 2, then the 1, then the ult, then the 3. Maxing these 2 out is important because your passive gives you extra damage. You want that. You want that power. Maxing that stuff out is important. Have some matchups here. You're very strong against Raijin because whenever Raijin ults, you can then ult Raijin for free. Vulcan's really good because anytime Vulcan drops a turret, you can root him and then 2 him and he's dead. It's also really easy to just hit your abilities on him. And then you do well in the Hera as well because you're able to root the Argus and just get rid of it and kill it and combo Hera very easily. Bad against, this is relative. This is if you're playing good players. Thoth is going to be a harder matchup, and it's just Thoth's range. His range can be very annoying and very hard to deal with for you as an individual. Tiamat, probably because Tiamat's and you'll see on the tier list or on the list of top 5 why. Tiamat's amazing, so it's just hard to deal with Tiamat for most people. And then Janice. Janice just can have good long range, hyper mobility, throwing abilities over the wall. It's really hard to stick with the Janice for most gods, Cilla being one of those. Number 2 on the list, we're going to go to the gods. It's a muzin cab. It is not a mage. That's why I said mages earlier. You saw in the SPL that a lot of mage ADCs are being played in the hunter role, and a lot of hunters are being played in the mid role again, right before Worlds. This happens a lot. Many of the years we've seen this. AMC is the most mage hunter, in my opinion, that there is. So we're gonna go to the mid build here, and you'll see this. You're going Bluestone to start, you're rushing Crusher, you're then going Jotuns, you're going Brawlers, you're going Dominance, and you're going Bloodforge. Now, a lot of higher end games, like pro level, they rush Transcendence. You don't need that. You need the early damage and CDR between these items. You might run into some mana issues. You shouldn't have a lot of mana issues, but you might have some. If you do have some, swap out Crusher for Transcendence. Like if you play this build and you just can't deal with the mana, don't go Crusher, just go straight into Transcendence. You'll be way happier with yourself, with your build. Plus, that'll give you full CDR in the build. So that's the one swappable. I like Crusher because I go for early kills. I like the early power. I pretty much just run at the enemy ADC early, try to kill him. If it's a hunter, you probably want Transcendence here. So here's the full build. This is going to give you a ton of power, ton of flat penetration. You've got autos hitting for 400, 500, 600. You have your abilities hitting very hard, your ult hitting very hard. You get the Bluestone dot, the Bluestone brooch ticking away at their HP. It's just a very mage style physical god. You play like a mage, you position like a mage, but you hit hard like a physical hunter, and then you also have abilities that hit hard like a mage. It's a really weird combo. You're gonna max your 1. I know this is where most people fail at AMC completely. This is where most people have, they don't even know, they don't even realize they're messing up. Max your hive, max your 1 first. This is gonna give you mobility so you can move around and stay safe. It ups your auto attack damage by a lot, and it gives you a ton of attack speed. It gives you a ton of sustain. Max your hive, then max your honey, your 3. This is going to be ultimate poke and your best clearing tool. With your hive down, your honey will full clear easily once it's leveled up. And then max your ult, because it's going to be your your lockdown. This is going to stop people from running away from you because it's a cripple and it hits very, very hard. Then your last one is your swarm. You're going to just use this for extra damage. It's just another raw ability for damage, and getting your passive up on them and ticking away at them, getting blue stun up on them. It's just a really strong kit, and this is how you want to level it up. Now your matchups, strong against Raijin, because Raijin's dash has a cast time. Your ultimate can go off in that time and cancel Raijin's dash, and you'll just fully lock him down. Tiamat you actually do very well into, because Tiamat's good, but Tiamat's good because Tiamat has 8 abilities. If you cripple Tiamat, he either has to beads to use his dash to then use his other abilities, or he just dies. Most Tiamats will not beads the AMC ult. They don't want to beads that ability. They just die. Janice, similar thing. Very easy to chip away at Janice's HP in the lane, and then you're able to cripple Janice, keeping him from running away. Weak against, similar to Scylla. Thoth, the range is just really hard to deal with. You will get out poked. Hera, it's really about that full commitment. Hera's full commitment is super strong with the shield and with the Argus, and it's hard for you to deal with. You take a lot of damage in that knockup, and it's kind of hard to get your damage off unless you use your actives. And then Soul has great sustain, Soul has great poke, and Soul is one of the few mage ADCs that can just raw 1v1 you over and over and over and over again. Like where Freya can 1v1 you, but she needs her hasten ring up. She needs more. Soul doesn't need that. Soul can just keep fighting you, and that's where it becomes difficult. So AMC is going to be, in my opinion, by far the best hunter for you to be playing in the mid lane. Plays just like a mage. So if you're a mage player, as long as you hit your autos, you should feel very comfortable playing AMC, and it gives you a physical damage option. Its damage is also not recognized yet. People don't realize how much you're going to do to them. I get a lot of kills at level 1 and level 2 on AMC in the mid lane. It's really, really strong, really, really aggressive. Next up on the list, that was AMC number 4. Next up on our list, we're going to go to the bottom. It's Zeus. And it's kind of scary just to think that he went from not being played for years to now being one of like a really dominant force. Here's the builds. You're going Conduit Gem, and you're going to go into a Chronos Pendant. This is so you have early clear and just early pressure and early poke, just extra damage coming out to make sure you have that lane control. You should have lane control off of your 2. Now here's where it's weird. Early game, you start your 2. You use your 2 to clear the waves, as it says right here, 2 in the middle of the wave and auto it down. If you 2 right in the middle of the wave and auto it, you'll full clear the whole wave faster than any other god in the mid lane will be able to. So that's how you maintain your control. Then with this build, it's going to be raw power. You're going to be able to spam your 2-1 combos to try to poke. Anytime you hit a 2-1 combo, then you 3 them. And honestly, they might die just off of that. It's really about learning the damage you can do and your positioning and your speed off of the 2, because that once you're comfortable with Zeus's kit, you are then more aggressive. So get to the point where you can be aggressive when you need to be. Understand your limits. Have a lot explained here in the writings if you want to read them. Just talking about how you do damage, how you peel for yourself, what to do if you get dove. That's sort of late game, early game. Talking about not being too aggressive with your abilities if they're down. You really want to be aggressive when they're up because you do a lot of damage. You are going to max your 3 still because that's going to be your killer. And you will clear just off your 2 being rank 1. You're going to max your 1 after that, then your ultimate, then your 2. These 2 abilities paired off of your 2 are how you are going to burst people down. Now your strong matchups, Vulcan, easy to kill because of low mobility, plus you have your 1 to bounce off of his turret. Ra, it's actually really easy to get to a Ra. While Ra is very quick, you are also very quick from range, and Ra's slow is going to be hitting you. So it's really, you have a good matchup against Ra. And then Morgan, once again, your 1 bounces off of the illusion when Morgan goes into stealth, and it'll hit her and bring her out of stealth. So you have that full counter matchup into Morgan. Hard matchups, Thoth because of range, Scylla because of movement and range, and because she can lock you down fairly easily. And then Janice because a similar thing. You don't really do great damage over walls, similar to like Thoth and Janice. So if they're playing right and they're using the walls and they're throwing all their abilities over walls, you're never going to see them and you're going to struggle to actually deal with them. In lane, your matchups won't be too bad. Just try not to get poked out. That's pretty much the biggest thing. Look for rotations and try not to get poked out. Be aggressive. He does a lot of damage. Now, one thing with Zeus, in the SBL, they're running Warrior's Axe here. They're starting Warrior's Axe, and they're going into the late game Warrior's Axe. and it's for survivability. If you are dying or you're just struggling to find your limitations on being aggressive, try Warrior's Axe. It's 100% a viable option. This build is way more mage-esque, way more the way most mages want to play the game, and it will help you for the long term throughout the game because you're fighting so much. Most mages at an SPL level aren't fighting a lot. I think the first one of the games the other day was at 19 minutes. And their whole goal is to survive in team fights until they get to the late game. That's when they pump all their damage. So they don't care about the early and mid game. You do care about the early and mid game because a lot of your games are decided in the first 10 to 15 minutes. So that's why I have you rushing CDR so you could fight over and over and over again. So number 3 on our list, number 2 on our list. These last two I don't think will be surprising to you. We'll see. So Soul, I have a core mage build up. This will work in both the hunter role and the mid role, but this is for the mid lane. I go mannequins because your auto attacks and your passive are your core to this god. Yes, your 2 is great poke, good clear, and an amazing ability, but your autos, they hit very hard with your passive. You will outtrade every single god in the game if you're playing around your autos. So get used to keeping your passive built up and using passive autos to just run people down because they can't outtrade you. The mannequin will help burn at that. You also clear the wave really fast because you're auto attacking so much. You're going into Ring of Akate early for sustain and for the attack speed to get your passive going. And then Typhon, so you have double lifesteal, so you cannot sustain anybody that doesn't get anti-hero early. Then Telkines, because Telkines is by far the best auto attack item any mage in the game. Then you're going to Demonic Grip so you can kill the tanks late game, and then Rod to just boost your damage. And it should just make sense. I mean, to talk about this, late game, combo any of your ultimates into any CC. So anytime you can guarantee that your ultimate, use it. It gives you CC immunity for a second, so you can use that as well. Early game, you should have pressure. Clear the wave. There are some gods that will out clear the wave, but if those gods focus on the wave, you should be able to just auto at them and kill them while they're trying to clear. Soul is amazing at getting early and mid-game kills just because the autos ramp up so quick. And with mannequins also ramping up, it hits double time and most people don't know it's coming. They don't expect it. They're not used to the matchup. So work on your aggression on Soul. Good matchups, similar to a lot of the other gods. You have Vulcan, Morgan, Agni. You do well into Agni, which sounds weird to a lot of people, but it's because you're so quick. You can get out of Agni bombs very, very easily. And you can actually catch up to Agni if he ever dashes very easily. And then on top of that, you've got your ultimate. So if Agni's going for a bomb stun, you can actually ultimate on the Agni. You get the immunity from the bomb stun and you cancel out the next bomb from Agni because it knocks him up. So you got those matchups weak. Tiamat, best mage in the game, so it's going to be weak. Thoth, because of range. Thoth matchup isn't that bad because if Thoth pokes you, you can kind of sustain it back up. And then Cilla is going to be a weaker matchup just because Cilla is going to be throwing her abilities from far away, not auto attack trading with you at all. And her damage is instant. She doesn't have to stand in there in your face, similar to Zeus or somebody who has to just sit there and build up their damage. Cilla doesn't have that. So Cilla's got a decent matchup into you. And yeah, I mean, in game, you're pretty much just sticking around. You can burn objectives very quickly. Your laning is very good. You've got decent like team fights. It's more so you play almost Hunter-esque right now. We've talked about it. Mage ADCs are killing it and Hunters are killing it. They're both really, really strong together. So you're just autoing and chipping away at whoever's in front of you. That's it. Just if someone is in front of you and you can hit them all the time. Never stop autoing, never stop doing damage, and you will do your job way better than most people. So that's number 2. Number 1 on the list. We've talked about talked about her like 8 times already. She is by far the best mage in the game. She's one of the only mages that have built in true survivability and mobility in the kit. So you've got your passive, which is going to reduce your damage taken, right? You then have a leap and a jump back. So you've got 2 forms of mobility. You've got a slow. You've got creeps that are constantly farming for you or pushing waves. You have a stun. You have good mage damage on your 1 in the ranged form. Then you go into the melee form. You have a .cc immune ult. That CC immune ult is another survivability tool, which is unmatched. It should not be CC immune. It's OP. Then you've got your knockup, which is one of the most annoying things to deal with, having a mage knocking you up in your face. You've also, the cat's here. What the heck? Out of nowhere. You've got really good burst from your 1 in that form. And it's just overall, it's like the King Arthur of the mid lane mage role. It's really, really frustrating. It is not an enjoyable matchup to deal with for most gods, almost any god. She's very easy to play. As long as you learn kind of when to leap and when to be in your melee form, you'll get there. Just practice it. The build's very straightforward. It's a CDR power mage build, not weird at all. I talk about being aggressive in the late game because you should be spamming your stun. You should be slowing with your what's it called? It's your ultimate. Whatever the 2 is in your ultimate, your little dude that runs at them and slows them. Keep slowing them, keep poking at them, try to get set up, try to get good damage out, and you'll be good to go. Early game, it's all about clearing and rotating. Clear and go kill a lane over and over again because you have very good CC and very good damage that you can take advantage of. You want to max your 1. You then want to max your 3 to get that cooldown down. You max your 2, and then you max your ult. Your ultimate is mainly setup and annoyance. It's not big damage. Yes, your highest damaging ability is actually your ultimate and then the tornado. It's your 3 and your ultimate. But that's if it's hitting the whole time. It is very rarely ever hitting the whole time. So remember that. You've got some really good matchups. Zeus, because you can actually out dive Zeus super easy. Vulcan, easy to dive as well. Agni, easy to trade and easy to dive. Weak against, I have the Morgan because the Morgan can catch you out and one-shot you when played late for the late game. Early and mid game, you have fine matchups against almost every god. Cilla, similar situation. If Scylla's hitting her abilities, she can be kind of frustrating because her damage is instant and yours kind of takes a second to get off, but still another matchup that's not that bad. And then Janice, just because it's hard for you to stick on Janice, that's why it's a harder matchup. None of these are actually bad matchups. They're just weaker matchups compared to some of the other matchups, essentially. There's the full build. If you've played Tiamat, then you understand. Your late game, you have massive AoE damage in late game team fights, which is just unmatched. You've got unmatched survivability. You have the CC immune ults. You have so much damage coming out of all of your abilities at the same time. When you have full CDR built, you are constantly spamming. You're never on cooldown. And most people just can't deal with it. It's one of those gods that just has too much going on all the time. And unless a team can collectively get on top of you and dive you and stick to you, it's not really going to work out for them. So if Tiamat's up, I would recommend picking it. If you haven't played much Tiamat, give it some time, get yourself used to it, get yourself comfortable with how the passive works and how the abilities kind of flow together. Once you get there, best god in the game by far. Hopefully you guys like this video. I hope knowing these gods and playing these gods and having Smite Source as a tool for you helps. It makes the game easier for you to learn and pick up and makes your mid lane time better. It's overall the goal and always the goal and what we're trying to do for you guys. Please, if you could, take the time, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Have a good holidays for those of you celebrating anything. Hope your day is great. And I will see you all in the video later tomorrow, the next day, and the next day.